Wrong room.
They all look the same.
Okay, we need a motion to go back in.
In session?
Motion by Councilman Moore, supported by Councilman Felder to go back into open session for our special meeting. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilperson Germaine,
Yes.
Lamore,
Yes.
Felder,
Yes.
Whitman, Ekuangeli, Vining, Mayor Clark.
Yes. Councilman Michael.
Your Honor, I'll make a motion that we authorize the city attorney to start litigation against 315 East Second Street relative to blight conditions.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Michael, supported by Councilman Moore to direct the city attorney to go into litigation regarding the location stated regarding blight condition issues. Any questions or comments? So those that are here, when we have a closed session and we had a discussion regarding a topic, I just want to say this isn't the first time we've had this conversation. When we come out to make a motion after a closed session, it's usually through not only the discussion we've had there, but in our work sessions previously, and it's something that continues to be an issue within our community. So with that, clerk, please call the roll.
Councilperson Germaine,
Yes.
Lamore,
Yes.
Felder,
Yes.
Whitman, Ekuangeli,
Yes.
Vining,
Yes.
Mayor Clark.
Yes. For the clerk, I don't think there's any other items.
Your Honor, I'll make a motion that we adjourn the special meeting, work session.
Motion by Councilman Michael, supported by Councilman Moore to adjourn the special meeting / work session. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilperson Germaine, Lamore, Felder, Whitman, Ekuangeli,
Yes.
Vining,
Yes.
Mayor Clark.
Yes. So we are running a little bit behind. We had some good discussion in our work session, and we had the closed session that was needed to be completed. We're going to need about 3 minutes, and then we'll be ready to start our regular council meeting here this evening. So just give us about 3 minutes to get things in order for the clerk and some council members. Thank you.
It was,
We'll call the city council meeting to order. Clerk, please call the roll.
Present.
Whitman,
Here.
Echoangeli, Vining,
Present, I'd ask we all please rise for the invocation, remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
guide our working together, give us wisdom to make the right decisions, your understanding to listen to each other, and your compassion to promote the welfare of the residents of this community.
Thank you. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all. Next item, clerk.
The next item is approval of regular agenda.
Thank you.
Your Honor.
Councilman Michelangeli.
I'd like to add under council action, the appointments for the Trail Advisory Committee.
There's a motion by Councilman Michelangeli, supported by Councilwoman Moore, to amend the agenda and under the council action to include the appointments to the Trail Advisory Committee. See no comments from council. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilperson Germaine?
Yes.
Lamore?
Yes.
Felder? Whitman? Echoangeli?
Yes.
Vining? Mayor Clark?
Yes. Clerk, next item, please.
The next item is the consent agenda, and for approval of payments to vendors, the amount should read $1,051,928.16, 1051928.16.
Thank you. Are there any items on the consent agenda that council wishes to have pulled for further discussion? Any items on the consent agenda council wishes to have pulled for further discussion? Seeing none. Any items on the consent agenda those present here this evening wish to have pulled for further discussion? Any items on the consent agenda? Seeing none, a motion would be in order regarding the consent agenda. Councilman Felder.
I would make a motion that all items on the consent agenda be accepted, placed on file, recommendations carried out, and resolutions adopted.
There's a motion by Councilman Felder, supported by Councilman Lamore, that all items on the consent agenda be accepted, placed on file, resolutions adopted, and items carried out. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilperson Germaine? Yes. Lamore?
Yes.
Felder? Whitman? Echoangeli?
Yes.
Vining? Mayor Clark?
Yes. Next item.
Next item on the agenda is presentation, communications, and public hearings, but I see nothing for that item.
Okay.
Next item then would be council action, and we have an item added, appointments for the Trail Advisory Committee.
Councilman Michelangeli.
The mayor has submitted a resolution appointing residents and non-residents to the Trail Advisory Committee. Those include Linda Lauer, Emily Abila, Peter Fales, Cole Renee Bean, Emily Van Washenova Scholes, Bob Neely, Scott Applin, and Michael DeSlover. I would make a motion that we approve the resolution and the appointments as recommended by the mayor.
There's a motion by Councilman Michelangeli, supported by Councilman Moore, regarding our resolution, the appointments to the Trail Advisory Committee. Two items in that resolution, if I might follow up, Councilman, is we talked about a council liaison, and of course, then it also states in here being resolved that the city staff liaison be through the Parks and Recreation Commission. I know we talked at our work session about this and about the council liaison, about maybe once the committee convenes and sets some times of council liaison. I'll ask this as there's members on council at this time that might have an interest in serving. I see a couple hands, right? Okay. 3 hands. Okay. So what we'll do is Councilman Felder, Councilwoman Germaine, and Councilwoman Whitman all have an interest to be the liaison to that. Oh, and Councilman Lamore, I missed that one. Sorry. So once we get the committee, well, I'll wait till the motion's passed, but if passed, then we'll bring those members in to have a meeting and then work schedules, and then we'll get back to make that council liaison appointment. So there is a motion and a second. If there's no further comment, clerk, please call the roll.
Germaini?
Yes.
Lamore?
Yes.
Felder?
Yes.
Whitman? Icoangeli?
Yes.
Vining? Mayor Clark?
Yes. Next item, please.
I see no other items this evening, Your Honor.
Okay, next item is council comments. Councilwoman Germaini, comments this evening?
Thank you, Your Honor. I just want to say what a blessing it is that we have Amy Arnold, who put the mosaic together at the ALCC. It's beautiful, and she lives in the neighborhood, and it's great that we have her in the community to reach out and give so much. So I want to say thank you to her, and thank you to Stephanie for a wonderful presentation tonight. It was impeccable. That's all, Your Honor.
Thank you. Councilman Lamore?
Thank you, Your Honor. Just looking for an update on the Lazy Boy site on Telegraph, if we have any updates to make on that.
Mr. Pastu?
Thank you, Your Honor. Just this morning, we were mapping out the series of actions to finalize the PUD agreement with the developer, the standards associated with it, the parcel splits, and I think we're probably looking at that coming to the Citizens Planning Commission in November, followed by City Council consideration with that. Can't remember how many exhibits the city attorney has with that potential document, but it's going to probably be a book with all of the details associated with it. But it needs to be. It's a pretty comprehensive plan, so it'll more than likely should be at the November Citizen Planning Commission to hold the public hearing associated with the design standards, the plan, and as well as the PUD agreement.
Thank you. Other things to add. Is there a possibility that we could get some signage for our Civil War monument? I know the mayor and I have discussed this in the past. The reason I asked for that is I know, and they failed to consider this when they proposed the project at first, but not a lot of people know that we have a Civil War monument at Soldiers and Sailors Park. And I think it would be a good idea to put some signage out, possibly attract some more people to that area. Just a thought there. And finally, a good friend of mine, Terry Nisley, is not doing well. He's in bad health. As many of you may know, he works at First Merchants Bank downtown here. A gentleman full of life right now is fighting for his life. So I just ask everybody here to please pray for him and his family during this most difficult time. He is a very well-loved person in the downtown community, and I seriously hope that he can make it through this terrible time right now. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Councilman. I'll make some follow-up comments on the monument. I've had some conversation as well. Councilman Feldner?
Thank you, Your Honor. I'd like to thank Councilman Lamore for bringing up Mr. Nisley. I did hear he was life-flighted to a hospital because of his COVID condition, and it's still a real thing, and it's still very dangerous, and we should take it seriously, but not let it stop us from proceeding with the business that needs to be done. Comment for the city manager. There was a comment from a resident the last time we met about our mural policy. If we could take a look at that, I know that our examination of our overall zoning ordinance, I think it falls within that, is long overdue, and we're going to set up a meeting to go over several of those issues and review our zoning policy. If that could be part of that, as part of that reevaluation, I think it would be pertinent. It wasn't an unreasonable request. So just a small comment there. Congratulations to Mayor Clark for his appointment to the MML Liability Pool Board of Directors. That was one thing that slipped by on the consent agenda, so thank you, sir, for your service on that board representing the city of Monroe. And there's certainly been a host of community events, community service events specifically recently, since we had met last. The EDC meeting, the county EDC at the River Raisin Battlefield Visitor Center, the Exchange Club Centennial. There was a BDC open house that just opened a new office, as well as several community service organizations that inhabit that residence as well. The Ducks Unlimited annual banquet, there was an Alzheimer's walk, there was a bed race downtown. If you don't think that there's enough to do in the city of Monroe, you're obviously not paying attention. So I invite you to go take a look at the BDC's, the Michigan Cornerstone Community Events Calendar. I think you're going to find that there's plenty to do, plenty to get involved in. And certainly thank you to the members of the Trail Committee, the newly formed Trail Committee, for stepping forward and looking for a way to improve their communities and where they live. That sort of work, oftentimes is volunteer, as it will be in this case, and it's a benefit to all of us. So certainly thank them for stepping forward and taking it upon themselves to put forward their time to improve our community. That's all I have this evening, Your Honor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilwoman Whitman.
I would just like to make a comment on the great presentation that Stephanie had made tonight. And we do have a housing shortage. With the population of women that I work with, they can stay with us up to 2 years to get ready to go to their own housing. And that's part of our program, is that they have to have housing when they leave. And we prefer it be their own housing. But there are a lot of landlords that don't want to rent, that based on history, even if they've been there. And most of the women don't stay 2 years. Believe me, they can't wait to get out of there. They know they're better than they were, and they settle for that. But they have a very hard time finding someone that will rent to them. Luckily, because of MCOP and Section 8, many of our women have been able to, they have been drawn. It's a lottery. It's not like they get picked because they're special. It's a lottery, and their name is pulled and they get Section 8, which makes them more attractive to landlords. So Stephanie really has a lot to do with that. She's her report was thorough. We can see how it is. The whole program is improving, and I am very proud of the center, the Opportunity Center now, and how it's doing. So, and the library. So that's all I have to comment on.
Thank you. Councilman Michelangeli.
Yeah, thanks, Your Honor. I think some people know that periodically I've been very critical in terms of expressing my opinion on some of the legislation that Senator Zorn is sponsoring, but on the other hand, I also want to compliment him on the $2 million that he brought to the city for the visitor center at the National Park Service. So I think, where criticisms due, you had criticism where people need to be thanked, we should thank them. I think that was a significant amount of money that he procured on behalf of this community and the county to make that visitor center a lot better. I want to thank the city attorney and the city manager for giving me a draft copy of the purchasing ordinance, which includes the contractor responsibility provisions. I'm going through that, and I think the anticipation is that may be on the docket in 2 weeks. And then lastly, it's something that I have discussed with the manager, but I know he's got his plate full. But I see a couple of department heads here, and one in particular, that I think it would be appropriate, based on the fact that we're doing a rather robust street improvement program, that we use a technique used by other communities and having a sign that's put up on the street that's being repaired and resurfaced, basically telling the taxpayers thank you for the street millage that they approved. I think without them approving that street millage, we would not be able to do the number of streets that we're doing. And I think we just need to say thanks a lot, because I think 15 years from now, when we go back and ask for a renewal, it may fare better with the ask. So I just wanted to bring that up. I know that everybody's got, on the administrative side, has got their plate full, but I noticed that we got Macomb Street under surface and remilling, Washington Street. 4th Street was rebuilt between Monroe and and Smith. So we've done, just in a small area, and I know on the north side of town, we've got quite a bit going on as well. I just wanted to make sure we said thanks. That's all I have, Your Honor.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilwoman Vining.
No comment this evening, Your Honor.
Okay. I have a few, it might be follow-ups, but a couple items I wanted to bring forward. You know, we were here earlier. We kind of ran over in our work session, which was a great discussion and information, and we had to go in our closed session. But so it ran over, so we come out, and then we come out after the closed session, and we have our regular meeting, and everything passed on a consent agenda. It's not like we haven't discussed many of these items before. And as you look through those, and one in particular I want to bring up, because our last work session we had a good discussion about, learned a lot about what our community development block grant funds, the CDBG, and tonight's agenda, an item that if you have not heard about it, you should go on and read. It's the Oaks Village subrecipient agreement, and I think it's going to provide service in our community. In our work session this evening, we were also talking with another subrecipient agreement that'll occur under some similar funding. So glad we were able to bring that forward. I want to thank administration. I know it's took a little while when we talk about CARES dollars, but dollars that are going to be used within our community. And I thank the planning staff as well as Caitlin and all for all their work on that and working together. So that was one item. So those items on the agenda get passed, but it's because we've had a work session and discussions. Next is that we had appointments that was moved into the agenda this evening. I want to thank council for all the discussion we had to get here regarding our Trails Committee and supporting the recommendations. And again, I want to thank the residents and a couple non-residents that put in for this committee. And I think there's importance when we talk regionally about our connectivity, not only with our trails, our pathways, but also others that are working hard around us, because they're all connected. So, look forward to getting contacts with the appointments here in the next day or two, and setting a meeting so we can have a council member also then assigned as the liaison. On the Civil War Monument, I also received a contact and a visit here in this last week, regarding signage. It's an item that was not addressed, as Councilwoman Moore said, during the development of that. Internally, I know there's a conversation with the communications director and administration about our signage overall. And the idea is, how do we get that placed, maybe even if it's something, if we're going to be making some adjustments in a long-term plan and for next year in capital improvements, that we don't do it twice, but at least do it for the time being. So make sure that we can make some recognition of where that is and how people that visit may know where to find it. I think Councilman Felder mentioned the Michigan Cornerstone, and one of the items that is moving forward out of that project, while it's a county, it involves all of us in the Monroe County BDC, is a community calendar. And I think we've talked about that for a very long time, not just here at council, but through our community. But if you go to the micornerstone.org, there's an opportunity to go online. There's an app, and it's about finding places to go and community calendar and activities. As Councilman Felder, there's many things going on, and sometimes it may be for those that have the technology abilities and have the app, but others, a place to find a community calendar. And they're populating that now, as well as that marketing that brand countywide. I think that's about what I had for this evening. I'll stop there. Clerk Treasurer Lavoie.
I just have one thing, Your Honor, and if it's permissible, I just was wondering if Mr. Lewis he's been great, and I don't normally do this, but if he could just speak to the audience and the people watching at home about the construction on Macomb Street, because a lot of people have been asking me, they've been calling in, where do we go? Is it passable? And so you've been really great at keeping all of us informed, but you'll do a better job explaining maybe how much disruption is left.
Sure. And Mr. Lewis, before you speak, it was a side note I had, and a couple, Councilman Ecolangi mentioned about all the projects, and I'm thankful for the residents on that support through the street millage. And I think that we've shown over the years in a variety of millages that have passed, the jobs are getting done, and they're getting done on time and under cost. But this year alone, we have 14 projects in our community, and Mr. Lewis may address that in his comments, but some were done early. We're able to also look forward to the next year already, and they're already in the planning about the moving projects that may be 2 years out into next year because of the ability, some of the companies that we have relationships with, but also because of the funding that was, additional funding that was supported, so through the millage. So I'll stop there. Mr. Lewis, if you could address the clerk's question.
Honorable Mayor and Council, Patrick Lewis, Director of Engineering and Public Services. Thank you, Clerk Treasurer Lavoie. I appreciate the handoff there, which allows me to talk about one of my favorite topics, which is construction projects. So I'll answer the question first about what's going on around City Hall. First of all, I apologize for all the chaos, because obviously we try to coordinate these projects the best we can, and it is a very tight market right now, so we're dealing with kind of at the whim of the subcontractor schedule. We do have a solid commitment from Cadillac Asphalt that they're going to be paving. It was supposed to be Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. They were rained out on whatever job they were on today, so it will be Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I believe they're starting with Washington and Macomb. So the good news is all the curb work is done, so the next step is you'll see brand new pavement down on those if all goes well by the end of the week. So then the question of are they going to be passable, is City Hall going to be accessible? The answer to that question is yes, but because the parking lot is half undertaken by the staging work for the LAT project here at City Hall, I wouldn't say it's friendly. I wouldn't say it's user-friendly at this point. Once we get the road paved, we'll be able to get parking back on the street here on a permanent basis. So if you can bear with us this week, I think this week will be kind of the end of the worst parts of it. So that's Macomb and Washington. The City Hall project, we didn't really talk about that, but I will briefly. Again, that's part of an ongoing larger job with Lake Erie Transit. They are using the south half of our parking lot here adjacent to the building for staging. They're coming and going a lot, but the main entrance doors should be unobstructed for more or less a duration of the project, certainly through the election process, which was a big thing. We know people are bringing ballots by and things like that. So concrete work that we have is largely completed, so the door will be accessible for the remainder of that time. Mayor, you mentioned it. We do have 14 projects this year, and I would like to mention one of the things that we do that every time. In all of our notification letters, we thank the property owners. We thank the residents for voting in the street millage, because it is important. I view it as the faith that the citizens gave in us, in our organization, and we intend to continue to earn that trust continuously. We did, because we were aggressive in getting the bid package out this year, we did save close to $500,000 from our engineer's estimate. We put some of that right back into the Theodore Drive project, which didn't actually have any funding associated with the CIP. It was planned to be contingency funding left over. So we were able to actually add another 900 feet of street onto this year's program. So we mentioned the St. Mary's Gardens project at one of the last work sessions, using the ARPA funds for that project, which will allow us to use those funds for streets because we're tearing those up for storm sewer. That in turn is allowing our 2022 project list to be as aggressive as this year as well. So we actually are going to be putting on East 2nd Street, which that was approved for funding, but we thought that was just a bit much to try to undertake with the rest of this. So we're looking at 2nd Street between Washington and Macomb. So those of you that say, well, that street's as bad as the other two, it is on the docket, as is the reconstruction of the parking lot here. Certainly we wanted to wait until after the City Hall project was done for LAT to start tearing that up. So the long and the short of it is this week will be a little challenging just because the paving crews need to have some efficiency and come and go. So what they're going to do is kind of hot lap the block there's 2 courses of asphalt that have to come down. So it'll probably be a 2-day process. Nothing is planned for tomorrow. So there's no parking signs on the street though, just in case they get an early window. But in all likelihood, Wednesday and Thursday are the 2 days for paving downtown. And then hopefully we'll be in the clear. So thank you all for your patience. I'll entertain any other questions you have, certainly.
Councilwoman Jermaine?
Will both entrances be open for the election?
Both doorways? That's a question I guess the clerk treasurer would have to answer. We haven't really talked operationally about the building during that time, but I would suspect we probably could. But I'll leave that
Both
to her.
entrances, you mean the Macomb Street entrance too? Yeah, we haven't talked about that with city administration. I would think that the plan, though, would remain keeping that door closed for security reasons as we have been. And we at the clerk's office are already telling our customers that, we're willing to come out to you if need be for you to conduct election business, et cetera. It's just that we have found that especially if when the clerk's here, we're here by ourselves after hours, it's easier to watch the main entrance, one door that we can actually see, as opposed to have to also watch that side entrance. So I would imagine that will be closed, but we continue working with our Director of Communications, Jody Egan, to continue to try to inform the voters and the general public as much as possible on that. Yeah. And actually what we found is the day we did open that door, because of the construction with the LET, it actually confused folks because they have gotten used to this main entrance being the only entrance. So we'll just keep on the course, I believe, unless city manager has something else to say. I think we'll continue on the same course of action.
Thank you. Councilman Moore, you have a question? for
Yes,
us?
Patrick, just a quick question regarding Front Street. Are we going to close that again too, or when do you think that'll be closed in order to finish the pavement?
I didn't really add that because that wasn't really a CIP. I'm kind of sneaking that little patch in with our
Yeah, just don't sneak it in on all the businesses down there, because
I understand. Councilman Moore and I had a brief conversation today. There was a large patch when we had a major water main break there. I'll say at the very west end of the last block of East Front Street near Amaya's. We looked at the pavement today. We got the contractor to go over there because he was already downtown and mill that out rather than have to try to pay a higher price on hand patching. But when we looked at the travel lanes, we said, we did 60 feet in here. We could really pick up some rutted areas there. So we did kind of spur the moment, close that for about an hour today. Hour or two. I don't really know when they started closing it. So I apologize for that. That was a bit of a spur in the moment kind of thing. I'll just be honest, it'll probably be a spur of the moment when they're done paving one of the other ones to say, okay, go over there now. Should take about the same length of time to get that paved. But just because of the traffic complications there, we probably will have to shut it down. I'll have a conversation with them about attempting to do that after like 5 o'clock, where we may not have the demands on it. But again, some of it we have to understand too, that we're dealing with big paving companies, and it's a little bit of a "you will take us when you can get us" kind of thing. And I certainly don't want to hold them back.
Well, I certainly appreciate it.
Yeah,
Trust me.
but I know that there's concerns about business access there too. So we'll do our best when I catch wind where they are Wednesday to try to steer them to a pattern that puts them there either late in the day or very, very early in the morning. So
Much appreciated.
sure.
Oh, Councilwoman Barney, please.
We have Patrick here. Can you say something about the Riverview project? I know,
I was just going to ask, but go ahead.
I know that's our project.
I was trying to avoid that one just because that seems to be the longest rubber band we're stretching out here. But the good news on Riverview is the next couple of days we're going to be done with the water work. So we're done with the underground piece of it. We had 3 services to do today. I believe we got those done. We have a couple of tie-ins still. They started removing curbs today, and I don't know yet. I haven't heard whether we can get the subcontractor GM and Sons to come in and do any of the curb pours this week. But if they can, they're certainly going to try. We're going to be close on that one. We'll get it paved. I'm confident we'll get it paved. I know it doesn't look like it, and it's kind of a bomb, but we are spending over $1.5 million in that area on the road and the water main. So it's a large investment over a half a mile corridor. So that's kind of our signature one for this year. But the good news is we're into putting it back together mode now. So, but I appreciate the question because it has been a bit tough there, and I appreciate all the residents' patience. Everyone over there has been great. We really haven't had a lot of complaints. So.
Councilwoman, I'll say thank you for bringing that up, because as they were going through projects, Riverview came to my mind. It is one of the largest projects and the signature project for the year, and it's a real tight street. It's very difficult, plus the additional work with the connections and the lead lead lines and all the work that need to be done to make new connections. So we appreciate the residents' patience, but knowing that it will get done and will be much better. So I've been down there a few times, like many of us have, and glad to see the progression. So thank you for bringing that up again. Sure. Thank you, Mr. Lewis.
You're very welcome. Thanks.
Okay. Clerk?
No, I think that's all I have.
Okay. Mr. Pastou?
Thank you, Your Honor. Just again, we talked a little bit about work session. Next week, our next meeting, we'll have the responsible contractor ordinance for discussion with council at a work session. But also, we talked earlier this year about amending the board of review ordinance related to the term of office. That'll be presented for review and comment, but also a tree advisory committee ordinance that we had talked about earlier this year will be. So we'll have those items, and I had a 4th item, and I cannot remember what that item was. So there will be a 4th item and maybe a 5th, depending on how time allows. So That's all I have.
Thanks, Mr. Pasto. I'm going to just follow up on one we've talked about, and I know it's not on for our next work session. It may not be for one or two, but it's probably going to be one of those special meetings that we always host. When we talk about the ARP or the rescue or ARPA funds, whatever you want to refer to it as. I know it was mentioned here, the St. Mary's Gardens. It's not that we're making individual decisions, which is clear to see what could be. We're waiting for some other decisions before that. But that's something that we'll have a long discussion on. I was able to attend the county's presentation through the BDC meeting the other night. It's something that was sent from the BDC, Matt Vanasacker, to the attendees. I think it's something I'll forward on to the council just to see kind of an idea. They're going to be manage it in a little different fashion, but they're county-wide, and they're trying to assist all the entities within the county. But it is an item that there's time to get it done, but we also want to have that discussion before we get into capital improvements this upcoming year. And I know that's on the city manager's calendar as well. It's a lot of funding, but you have to be strategic and important how we have that conversation and the input that we'll receive. I know I get that input almost daily from residents. So what are you going to do with that money? And they have ideas. We want to meet those criteria as well. Vince, you were going to make a follow-up.
If I may, just at the end of the week, departments are going to be submitting their capital improvements plans or requests to the Community Development Department. And so at that point, internally, we start evaluating them. And clearly, as we've talked about, this is probably far and away the most significant capital improvements program that we've put together probably in decades, given the amount of money and the need to consider the strategic application of those funds for all of the needs that we have here in the community. So it'll probably be late in the year when we start maybe holding more than one session or even a single session to get the ball rolling, because it'll be pretty comprehensive.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I think there's an opportunity also with our communications director, if we start forming that we provide information to the public about some of the items, also the criteria in which you can use that for. That might help bring some people together as far as what might be priorities and keep engaged with them as well. Thank you. Well, next item is citizens' comments. So any comments from those present here this evening? Just mindful of the rules of the chamber. You have 3 minutes to bring your item forward. Please state your name, residence, or city of jurisdiction, and that's where we'll start. Any comments from those present here this evening? Yes, sir.
Thank you, Your Honor. Counsel. My name is Robert Kitson. I live at 450 Mason Run Boulevard. I'm here tonight to talk about Chapter 210-2, the Blight Ordinance. As I was here at last council meeting, Part 14, Part A, Step 3 says approved, you can only park a vehicle on hard surface. I'd like to see if we can get the council to amend that to make that as gravel also, because we have a lot of gravel driveways in Monroe. And as I said at the last meeting, people are parking on hard surfaces, but we're selling houses and not upgrading the driveways. So I'd like to see if we can get city council to amend that to include gravel. Also, I'd like to see in Amendment 2 of that, it says vehicles are inoperative after 5 days. I'd like to see if city council can add some verbiage to that so we know more clarification what that really is. Because an operative car, like I said last time, if you go out of town, let's say you hit a nail on the way home, you go out of town for 2 weeks, that car's inoperative for 5 days. You don't even know it's inoperative because it has a flat tire because you're out of town. So I'd like a little more verbiage in that so we could be a little more clear on what inoperative is considered.
Sure.
So,
and I see Mr. Pasto is taking some notes.
I had both of them, all those on my list that we discussed at our last staff meeting. So it's on the list. It's in the queue, as the mayor had mentioned. So, yep.
Bring that up. I know the council has taken a position here, not just recently, but for a long while regarding blight. You heard us come out of a session and in our special meeting to take some action. It's not where we want to start. It's where we have to get to. We're obviously looking to set appropriate, I'll say, codes and what's permissible or what may not be. And then as we have it, maybe a challenge with a location, that there's correspondence and contact. And then you're obviously from there, we try to get compliance. And if we don't have compliance, then it goes to enforcement. And there's ways in which that can be done through staff internally. Unfortunately, sometimes it then has to go to where it's legal action, and that's the last step. So don't think that when we came out of our work session or closed session that we just went there. All those steps have been the process to that. But I thank you for your information, because there's things that we've revisited in our zoning code, and there's always will be things to reconsider as we move forward. Thank you for your comment. Other comments from those present here this evening? Any other comments from, yes, please forward, name, address, please.
Good evening, Pastor Boone, 924 East 2nd Street. I just wanted to remind council, we put in a request to purchase a piece of land on Winchester Street, right at 3rd Street, and there was questions about whether we owned the other properties, and I know we've since gotten a blight ticket, so I think that's pretty much proof that we own the pieces of land next to it, and this is for our tiny house project. I heard you guys talking about the housing, and Paula, you talked about the housing and how there's not enough affordable housing, and that's what we deal with every single day in our shelter, not being able to get people housed, landlords who, you know, just the prices are just too ridiculous, and even the number of Section 8 vouchers that's been given out, and we can't find landlords that's willing to take those vouchers. So we really want to get started on our tiny house project. We own most of the land right there on Winchester and 3rd. Nice patch of land, and we have talked about it. And so I want to keep pushing it so we can get busy with this tiny house project. And Mr. Mayor, I want to thank you for coming down to see our health clinic and our daycare last week. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you, Pastor Boone. Other comments from those present here this evening? Any final comments from those present? Seeing none.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion by Councilman Moore, supported by Councilman Felder to adjourn. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilperson Germaine? Yes. Lamore?
Yes.
Felder?
Yes.
Whitman? Michael Vining?
Yeah.
Mayor Clark?
Yes. Thank you all for being here this evening, and stay safe, please, and